How do you respond to those usually late career, people who say these people are just weak or defective or whatever. They need to quit crying. They need to just suck it up. They need to whatever it is, because I've had that happen several times, and trying to point them to the data. I think that they just, you mentioned at the outset, this isn't pop psychology, but so how do you confront that or respond to it, I guess?
Yeah, it's the these generational wars are sort of always with us, and I think again it's an oversimplification of people like to
Mhm.
characterize a younger generation a certain way to uh, you know it's a approach to sense making, but usually those type of characterizations I always find are so oversimplified, right? I'll
Yeah.
say in my own profession again, ascribing a generational profile of millennials as a group of millions of people, suggesting they have one set of values and orientation, and that then you're going to project that on every individual from that
Mhm.
age range that you meet, is a disservice. And even more so, the subset of people who chose to go to medical school, who, sacrificed a great deal for their training and for residency and fellowship and so forth. And to again then project, generalizations from a whole, I think again, it's off the mark. But
Yeah.
I think what is more constructive to your question specifically of, how do you approach those older colleagues? I think it's, trying to redirect the conversation in a different path of that. Look, we may not all see eye to eye on everything, of people at different stages of a career, and, dealing with, some dealing with two career relationships, some not, some dealing with school age children, some not, some more established and experienced in delivering care, and where they can be more efficient because they've been doing it for 20 years. They've seen it all.
Sure.
So, recognizing that we are all different, and some folks, may experience the demands of work differently. But at the end of the day, I think generally there's a notion of we want to provide the highest quality care for our patients. We want to do it in a sustainable way. We want to have a group of colleagues who are working toward shared purpose and supporting each other. And to do that effectively, we need to understand one another, and what are all the
Mhm.
things that are, barriers to us doing that together, and can we think about, how we might re-engineer, optimize the work environment, the way we design the work, our workflows, the way we function as teams, the way we cover each other, and so forth. Are there ways we can optimize that serve all of us better, even if you say, I can't believe, Tate only wants to work 55 hours a week instead of the 75 that I work. But I do think sometimes those, generational issues come into play. I think the other thing that comes into play quite often, that's not always a generational element, because it often comes from a mid-career person who I'll just refer to as just the cynic,
Mhm.
that nothing will change. We talk about it, but nothing will ever be done. Incorrectly states that the only thing that is ever promulgated to address this is personal resilience, when many organizations are doing substantive practice redesign and optimization. But they've kind of been burned before, because there was a time when people would acknowledge it, but then not do anything about it. They've kind of watched some of those failed attempts in the past, and they're skeptical. When you hear those comments, I think that the important piece to recognize is that the trust has been broken. That
Yeah.
all of those comments are reflection that the organization has broken the trust in the relationship it has with this physician. And they're expressing these statements that reflect that broken trust. And that, I think, meeting them there, of just acknowledging it oftentimes, of that, I can understand why you would say that, because we have seen failed attempts in the past, or, hollow gestures,
Mhm.
and that, you know, that that is a real history. But there is a desire to try to do better and to try to make a more serious commitment. And we do need the input of those who care about that and want that new effort to be successful, to help it, achieve its intent. And I think also to sometimes challenge those folks too, of that it's easy to point out problems or to point out the failed attempts of the past. What's harder is to try to come up with pragmatic and feasible newest solutions or new approaches
Mhm.
that we might try. But that's what we need to help each other do. And, you know, would you be willing to try to help us get there? And
Yeah.
to see, and not all of them will be, but, some will be able to, to lean into that.